practice, but we're going to go in about 6 minutes. You all right with that?
Okay. Good. Ready to go. I've had no practice, but I think that's better, so. I haven't posted on there in a while, but around Commonwealth Games all of that year it was great. So.
Did you know? School Sport Victoria offers 650,000 sporting opportunities in 31 different sports at 10,700 events across the state every single year. That's a lot of kids playing sport. And for over 25 years, the Victorian School Sports Awards have recognised more than 1,500 students, teachers and volunteers for excellence and outstanding contribution to school sport. Now that's a champion effort.
Good afternoon and welcome to the show today. We've got Anabelle Smith, Olympic diver, who's joined us today. She's quite a charismatic young lady. You're going to enjoy this show, I'm sure. Welcome, Anabelle.
Hey, thanks for having me today. I'm very excited.
No problem. We enjoy having different Olympians on, and diving certainly one of those sports that we haven't had a great deal to do with. So showcasing diving and your great efforts is what we're talking about today. And talk about great efforts. You are quite a decorated young lady. 2010 Com Games bronze at the age of 17, which we'll talk about in a second. 2011 World Championships in Shanghai, another bronze. 2012 London Olympics. 2014 Glasgow, bronze with the Com Games. 2014 World Cup Shanghai, and then 2016 Rio Olympics. Another bronze. That's a whopping 5 bronze medals in international. We haven't even talked about Australia yet. How do you feel about that?
It's pretty crazy when you read it back to me, I guess. I think because our lives move so fast, you kind of forget what you've already done. But yeah, I seem to like bronze medals, so that's kind of my colour, I guess.
Look, a medal's a medal. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with diving or synchronised diving and all of that sort of stuff, we've got just a very short video to show that will put in perspective the kind of work that Anabelle does in terms of diving. But look, when I watched this video over, I thought I was looking at one person, not two. It is quite exceptional. So just watch this and enjoy that.
Now we're about to see the Australians, Madison Keeney and Anabelle Smith.
Starting with a back dive pike.
Ready, go.
They are in the bronze medal position at the moment. Keeney and Smith, a 71.1. It's not over yet, but they may well medal here in the opening diving event. Bronze medal for the Australians. Chinese take the gold.
Now that puts it in perspective, certainly. How did you feel when you were watching that back again? You've probably watched it a million times, but what goes through your mind?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty special. I think, you know, the Olympic Games is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and to be competing at 2 Olympic Games and then winning a medal is just something that I hold very close to my heart, and I guess makes all the ups and downs of the career worth it. So it is very special.
It certainly does, and we'll talk about, you know, different what your week looks like in particular. But where did it all start for you? Where did this diving thing come from for Anabelle Smith?
Well, when I was younger, I was definitely a super sporty and all-round kid, but I just did normal, you know, pretty common sports like netball and little athletics, and I played soccer. But I was always naturally very acrobatic and teaching myself backflips on my trampoline in the backyard, and had an aerial awareness that I think was pretty natural. And then one of my cousins actually did diving for a little bit when she was younger, and at the time I watched her do a session, and then I went along to a holiday program at my local pool and found it really fun and challenging. It was something different, and it was me flipping around well supervised, so my parents were pretty pleased about that. And yeah, the coaches saw that I had a knack and a bit of talent, and so asked me to come back and join the action program.
Fantastic. And so you did a whole range of sports from a young age. What age were you when you started diving?
So I was about 11 at the time I first tried it, but I just did it recreationally whilst I did my other sports, probably for about a year or so, and then a year and a half maybe. And then when I was about 13, I joined a high performance program that was starting in the city at MSAC, and then from there I had to give up all my other sports and started training 10 times a week for diving.
So my head's spinning at the moment. 13 years old, you started to take it fairly seriously, but gave the sport a real focus. At 17, you were at your first World Championships. How does a girl do that? A boy do that? An athlete do that in 4 years?
Yeah, it was crazy. I definitely progressed in the sport really quickly. I think I'm naturally a fast learner, and I loved the challenge of diving. I had no fear when I was younger, so learning all the big dives on the 10-meter platform just kind of happened. Now I think about it and it freaks me out. But yeah, back then I just had such an energy and such a passion for the sport that I was really lucky. I had great coaches to guide me through that process.
Now, you talked a little bit about, having no fear. Being at a diving pool and seeing a diving pool at MSAC, and when you watch it on TV, you think, 10 metres, not bad. Then you go see a 10-metre board and you're like, oh my gosh. So as 11, 12, 13-year-old girl, you started it obviously at the 1 metre, then the 3 metre, then the 10 metre. What was it like the first time you jumped off a 10 metre?
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about, I guess, but at the time, I mean, the more you stand up there, the lower it kind of feels, so you get comfortable with it, but you definitely progress, and I did a lot of diving off the 5 metre and then off the 7.5 metre, and then I honestly remember the first time I did a harder dive off 10 metre, I just woke up that morning and I was like, I think I'm ready to learn an optional, which is a hard dive.
Wow.
And that session, that night I went into the pool, I told my coach, I think I'm ready, I feel ready. And he's like, well, I think you're ready too. And so we have this big bubble machine at MSAC, which jets push water up to soften the surface. And I had the bubble, and then my coach just said, 1, 2, 3, and I just went. So thankfully it all worked out fine. And obviously I was technically ready to do the dive, but it's still an adrenaline rush. I was very nervous, but I trusted that I was going to be able to do it. And that's just kind of how it progresses.
That's amazing. So that old quote of it doesn't happen overnight literally did happen overnight for you. You woke up, thought, that's it, I'm going to get it done. The coach's eyes probably went completely wide and thought, let's make this happen.
Yeah, I think the thing for me also when I was younger, because I was really strong and naturally very bouncy and had a lot of power, the dives were easy for me to do. It was more the technical aspect that I had to work more on. So yeah, I kind of had all this ability, but then my coaches had to rein me in a little bit and make sure I was doing everything technically right.
Because it's not just, I'm no diver, but it's not just about coming off the board, getting up to 10 metres. It's being able to hold your body in that form, and your core strength must be phenomenal to be able to do that from a young age. And I guess starting out in those sports like little athletics that you talked about before, and the core strength would have been a factor in those sports as well, but to hold your body in that way and to spin in the way that you did, pretty remarkable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess, even when I did little athletics, my favourite and best events were the jumping events. So I love hurdles, I love long jump, triple jump. So I had that power, but yeah, I don't know, taking it into diving, we definitely do a lot of core work. Sometimes, when the swimmers are watching us on pool deck doing our pike ups where you're putting your body into a V position or you're hanging off the bar and swinging your legs up, all that stuff seems so normal to me, but I guess for people who aren't in an acrobatic sport, it looks pretty crazy.
It does. It certainly does. Now, we've got an invited guest, Catherine from Middle Park Primary School, who's going to join us now. She's got a question she's going to ask you. Catherine, welcome, and welcome to the show again. You've been on a few times. You quite enjoy jumping on the show. Tell me, what's your favourite sport in particular?
I'd say running. I just enjoy the wind blowing my face.
That's good. Well, you can get that when you put your head out the window of a car too, but you keep doing running. That's good. What sort of running? Is it distance running more than sprinting?
I enjoy long distance. So I do the park run with my mum. Usually I run a 5 around the lake.
That's amazing. Well done. Now, you got a question for Anabelle Smith. You obviously have seen a little bit of diving and seen the video we've just showed. What's your question for Anabelle?
So, Anabelle, what food do you before you train to compete?
Good question, Catherine, and hello. When I was your age, I used to love long distance running too, so that's very good to hear. What do I eat before training and competition? Usually in the mornings before our training session, because they are pretty early, my stomach isn't quite ready for a lot of food yet. So I either just have a banana or a piece of toast, and then I go do my training. And then as soon as I come home, I have a normal bigger breakfast. So I might have some poached eggs on toast or some avocado, or sometimes I like to have oats with banana and peanut butter. And then also before competition, I have to, because we're spinning around and doing a pike and squeezing our legs into our stomach, I have to make sure that I have enough time for my food to digest. So I usually have a normal meal. If it's, an evening competition, I'll have a chicken and salad sandwich or something for lunch, and then make sure I have a couple of hours for that to digest. But packing snacks and having, some water and Gatorade or something packed as well, just to help during the competition.
There you go. We've asked that question about eating quite a few times, haven't we, Catherine? And bananas seem to get a mention at every show. So, you got another question for Anabelle?
Yeah. How has COVID-19 affected your mental health, your fitness, and driving?
So how has COVID-19 affected your mental health, fitness and all of that? So how have you stayed active in this time, basically, to stay fit and healthy?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's definitely been a very challenging time for everybody. And the first time we went into lockdown, we weren't allowed to train or do anything. So I had a little bit of equipment brought home. I had a couple of medicine balls and some dumbbells and tried to do as much exercise as I could in my house. But I also just took a little bit of a mental break just to come to terms with everything that was going on and just take a bit of a breather. So I tried out some online workouts, did some yoga, did Pilates. YouTube has a great range of home workouts. So I also did some dance cardio where you're jumping around to the beat. So I tried to look after myself as best as I could, but it definitely was challenging. But I also just tried to get more sleep because I wasn't having to wake up early for training. So that helped as well, I think. And then luckily we were able to go back to the pool when the restrictions dropped. And now we're training a little bit still, but obviously there's a lot of rules and we're all trying to do the right thing and stay home as much as possible. So it's been a really hard time, especially with all our competitions being cancelled this year. So it's different, but we're trying to do the best that we can.
Another great question there, Catherine. Have you got one more?
Yeah, I've got one more. What physical and mental struggles have you fought to do diving?
Well, mental and physical struggles. So I think the biggest one with a lot of sports is often injuries. So I had a pretty bad injury in 2013 where I had an accident in the gym and I was doing calf raises up and down on my toes with a bar on my back. And the box that I was standing on flipped over and came crashing down on my finger. So I had to have surgery for that, and that put me out of training for about 2 months, which was really sad. And then I sprained my ribs leading into the Olympics in 2016. So I had some time off, and injury is always hard because you're watching your teammates and your competitors continue training, but you're on the sidelines. So that was difficult. Sometimes, like if you don't do as well in a competition as you'd like, or you miss selection for a national team or an international team, that's also pretty tough. But the biggest thing I've learned is that, to have a really good support team around you, whether that's family, friends, my coach has always got my back. So you just got to stick to your own path and worry about your own journey. But you put in the effort and eventually I think it'll work out well.
Another great question there, Catherine. And just to talk about that in terms of injuries and all of that, 2013, where you got your fingers crushed, was the lead into the Com Games. And you still went, still competed, got a bronze. You talked about 2014 as well, where you got an injury. 2016 leading into Rio, still went, still competed, still got a bronze. Remarkable, because injuries obviously can be setbacks. Hey, Catherine, great questions. Always fantastic to have you on the show. We'll probably see you another time soon.
Thanks, Catherine.
She said thanks for having you. Look, that was great to have her on board. And is there something that you, as Anabelle Smith, knowing yourself as well as you do to prevent having an injury, or lower the risk of having an injury?
Yeah, for sure. I think the older that you get and the longer you're in the sport, it kind of transitions into what we call prehab. So you're trying to prevent an injury happening. So I do Pilates at least once a week and have a full 2-page list of exercises that I do on the daily to make sure I'm, keeping my muscles, all the little muscles that need to work, in check, and making sure I'm trying to reduce my risk of getting injured. So there's definitely a big emphasis on that now, as well as having, constant massage and physiotherapy to make sure I stay on top of my niggles as well.
Very good, very good. We got a question that we thought we were going to have Cara Elizabeth join us, but Cara Elizabeth is from Willers Hill Secondary College, and she's got this great question. What do you think to yourself? She's got 2 questions, so we'll take it one at a time. What do you think to yourself right before you're about to dive? So you're on the diving board, you're there with whoever it is that you're diving with or as an individual. What do you think to yourself?
Well, it's taken me years to figure out my routine in competition, because if you don't have a routine, sometimes the nerves just overtake and you aren't really thinking clearly. But now that I do have that routine in place, I definitely just focus on my breath. I try and take a few deep breaths. And then as soon as I'm about to go, I just think of 2 or 3 key keywords about the technique of the dive I'm about to do. And then I just say, I've got this, or back myself. And, I want to be taking off the board with confidence that it's going to go well. So that's what I try and do.
Very good. Now, the next question. What inspires you to dive, and what age did you start diving? You've tackled the age part, because we talked about that being 11, 12, 13. But what inspires Anabelle to dive?
Well, I think I have to take it back to being inspired to go to the Olympics. So I remember clearly watching the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. Some of you watching probably weren't alive then, but Kathy Freeman won her, infamous gold medal in the 400 meters in Sydney, and I watched that and said to my parents, I want to do that. I want to go to the Olympics. I wasn't sure what sport it was going to be in, but I just knew I wanted to go. And so then, doing all those other sports and then finding myself in diving, I think diving was the first time that I was it's a pretty small sport, and I had so much talent and was told that if I just buckled down and trained really hard that, it would hopefully lead me to that dream one day. But obviously at the start, it's still very, very much out of reach. And so 3 or 4 years later, when I made my first Commonwealth Games team and World Championship team, and then it kind of became closer in my reach and maybe a reality, that was when it was really exciting to realize that, okay, I keep working hard and hopefully that's going to come true.
And you definitely do work hard. I know you train really hard with the VIS, and you've got a great program there, and they really look after you. You mentioned it, hitting the first World Championship, at the age of 17. Com Games, you weren't that old. I think, were you still in school when you went? You went to Com Games?
When I went to Delhi for Com Games.
Amazing. So as a year 12, you've obviously got all the pressure around year 12 and making sure you perform at the VCE. How did you cope with the mental pressure of wearing the green and gold at such a young age?
I think for me, I was just so excited. And when you're young, you're a little bit naive to all the pressure from being on the world stage, just because it is all new and exciting. And, my personality, I was super bubbly growing up and wasn't really affected by a lot of things. And I remember telling my parents, or mum would ask me before a competition, are you nervous today? And I was like, no, why would I be nervous? So at 17, I think on that international stage, I was just so happy to be there and had obviously so much support from my school and knew everyone was watching at home, which did make me nervous to think so many people could see me on the world stage. But at the end of the day, it was just a privilege to be wearing the green and gold. So it's not really until I got older that I thought a bit more about the pressures and you kind of become more aware of that. But at 17, it was just the time of my life. So it was awesome.
That's so good. And I'm imagining you want to go even further and take it even further. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously with Tokyo being postponed, it put a little bit of a dent in our plans. But hopefully all goes ahead this year, and definitely hoping to turn my bronze into a different colour medal.
Very good, very good. Look, that's really exciting stuff, and who knows what will happen in the future. You've obviously got a very good relationship with the girl you compete with. You must have spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, so Maddie and I started doing synchro, I think in late 2013, and at the time we lived in different states. So Maddie's from Perth, I'm from Melbourne, but our national program for many years was based in Brisbane. So we both had to move to Brisbane, and then we started training together. But a few times I've moved back to Melbourne and Maddie stayed in Brisbane, but I've definitely spent a lot of time up there training together. And then when we go away for competitions, we have really specific training as well. So we don't live in the same state anymore, but once you kind of get a little bit more experience, it just takes a couple sessions when we are back together for things to go back to normal and for our timing to be really good. So yeah, we were matched together because we're very similar divers. Maddie is a very powerful diver, so I have to try really hard to keep up with her. But yeah, it works out pretty well and we're very experienced now.
That's fantastic. I mean, I didn't realise that she didn't live in the state. That would add a level of complication. You can't exactly do that over Zoom because you can't have your computer near water. But at the same time, you must have spent a lot of time together and really crammed when you were together. Again, I'm naive to the intricacies of diving, but do the competitors that live in the same state all around the country that live together and train together, do they have a competitive edge over ones that don't?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the more time you spend together, the better. So to be honest, like our plan moving into Tokyo was that I was going to spend a lot more time up in Brisbane, which is generally the case leading into a competition. And so we'd make the most of that period. But, just for other reasons, it's better for me to be able to come home and be with my family and, enjoy training in Melbourne as much as I can too. But you do often think about the people who train next to each other day in, day out, that could be an advantage. But we try to make the most of it. And I think the benefits of me being able to come home outweigh us being together all the time, but me, being a bit unbalanced in my lifestyle. So we make it work, but definitely think about that sort of stuff.
Now, very good. Now, we've talked a little bit about, sacrifices. When I ask you this question, what's your response? What sacrifices have you had to make to get to where you are today?
Well, I try and think of it in like a couple of ways, but sometimes if I think about all the sacrifices, like, not really socializing as much with my friends at school and missing out on things, having to go to bed early, not having any free time, all those things. But I try and flip it and think that it's like been my choice, and the things that I've been able to experience because of choosing to be an elite athlete and choosing to prioritize my diving over, having a thriving social life or, being able to spend time outside of training hours is something that's been, those choices have led me to my results and making Australian teams and going to the Olympics. So I definitely don't regret having to sacrifice anything. I think the biggest thing though is that my family definitely has had to sacrifice a lot for me to be able to do what I do, and I'm forever grateful for that. So I try and, they know that I'm very grateful. So that's probably the hardest thing, is the family having to sacrifice.
You seem like you get along very well with mum and dad, which is a very precious thing, and I'm sure they're abundantly proud of you as well. Have you got other siblings?
Yeah, so I have a younger sister and an older brother. So they also had to cop a little bit when I was younger because mum and dad were chasing me around and driving me to and from training. But we were all very sporty, so everyone played different sports, but they've been a great support as well.
Because training for diving would be very early starts, would that be right? And I'd imagine, take us through a typical week. You're getting, not right now because Tokyo's been postponed for a year. We'll talk about that in a second. But in regard to a typical training week, as you're starting to go into peak form, what does a week look like for Anabelle Smith?
Sure. So we pretty much train at around 7 o'clock in the morning. It used to be 6 when we were at school, but thankfully we're all out of school now. So we typically have about 7 till 9 a.m. We have a morning session. Sometimes it's what we call dry land. So somersaults on trampolines, into foam pits, technical work outside of the pool. And then, so that's Monday and Friday. And then Tuesday and Thursday morning, we do a gym session, 7 till 9. And then every night of the week, we have 3 till 6 p.m. is our main diving session in the pool. And then Saturday morning, we also have a gym session, which sometimes will roll into another diving session at the back of that. So around 10 times a week. Sometimes I have periods where I'll have my Wednesdays as a recovery day and, do Pilates, physio, and get all my things sorted. But leading into a big competition season, it's generally 10 times a week and around 25, 30 hours. So it's a big commitment.
Which is just phenomenal, which is, it's a full-time job for you in a sense. This is your job. And to go on from that, Dale Marshall on Facebook has asked a question. How much time do you spend in training environment, which you've kind of talked about, but how much do you split into physical, mental and tactical dimensions in regard to your training?
Sure. So I guess physical is obviously a big part of our training, and we're always moving our bodies, working on the technical aspects of diving. But in terms of the mental side of things, I regularly see my sports psych who helps me with like the stresses of life, but also then, specifically working around competition mentality and my attitude and my routines going into competition to make sure I'm in the best mental state, because at the end of the day in a diving competition, we've got about 5 seconds times 5 to do 5 good dives. So you've got to be in the right headspace. And then I also try and do some meditation if I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Sometimes 5 minutes of meditation in the morning. A bit of visualization also helps, especially in times like now when we're not training as much, just to keep our brain working, because they say that doing it in your mind or doing it physically is the same thing. So, and then tactical, I guess, because diving, is an individual sport, or we're not really in a team, there's not much tactics behind diving, but there is conversations, whether we have video replay and analyze our dives that way, and just have regular meetings with our coach to plan out our season and to plan out our training. That's probably the most tactical stuff that we do.
And you'd probably do some tactical analysis of other competitors, right? The ones that you want to grab that gold medal off, you watch their dive and see how you can perfect or battle theirs.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's great because you can just type in 2012 Olympic Games women's swim, and I can watch my competitors dive. So that is definitely another way we can do it.
Which is fantastic. Now, what are your thoughts around Tokyo being postponed a year? How did that impact you as an athlete?
Yeah, I think it was pretty tough at the start, just because I was in a really good place in February and March. We'd just gone overseas to Canada for our first competition, and I won an individual medal on 3 meter, so that was really great. And then sort of to come home and find out that everything was shutting down was a real shame. I think everything happened really quickly, so that was difficult, and just all the unknowns were really stressful. But I think once we were able to process it and reset our goals and replan as much as we could, I've come to better terms with it now. And I really just hope it does go ahead and everything works out next year, because it'd be a great celebration for the world to be able to enjoy an Olympic Games, I think.
Very good. Now, hopefully it works in your favour, and I'm sure you're going to be certainly sought after around that time. We've got another question that's come in on YouTube from Kieran Drizzle. Were you good at sport when you were a kid?
I don't want to brag, but our family, I have always been very sporty. I think my first actual, that I can remember, I made the state team for women, for women's soccer for our girls team, and also awesome. I did the inter-school athletics and cross country, and I was a really good runner. And as I said, I loved the jumps. So I think I actually won the Victorian states for school states in triple jump, but at the time and in my age group there wasn't nationals for triple jump, so I wasn't able to. But I still have that little gold medal in my box somewhere. But yeah, ever since I've started training for diving, one of my biggest disappointments, I guess, is the loss of my aerobic ability in running, because diving, you don't really have to do much cardio, so all of our things are quick and sharp movements. So I'm really sad that I'm not as good of a runner anymore as I used to be, but maybe one day I'll go back to running.
I'm sure you're a fantastic runner, and I'm sure that little box that you mentioned that's got medals is not little. It's a massive box of medals that I'm sure you've got from others. And you're right, at the state championships, school sport Victoria Track and Field State Championships, we didn't take triple jump, and I'm sure your parents would have breathed a sigh of release to not have to get you into another sport yet again.
Yeah.
We've got another question that's come in too from, we've got a funny one from Fraser. Why do you go for Richmond Football Club? You don't need to answer that.
Someone's done their research, but hey, we've gone many years struggling with Richmond, so to have some success now, I'm pretty happy about it.
Richmond's a great club. We love Richmond. Now, what has been your favourite diving experience that makes you feel amazing every time you think about it? That's come in from Charlie the diver, so I'm guessing he likes diving, and you might know him.
Yes, Charlie's actually a girl, so hi, Charlie.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
All right. One of those. I mean, obviously winning a medal in Rio, but if I think of another memory that makes me happy every time I think of it, it's definitely the 2018 Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, purely because it was a home Commonwealth Games in Australia. I had all my family, extended family, some of my school friends come up and were sitting in the stands watching me compete, and I won an individual medal on the Gold Coast. So that was really special because I've competed all over the world, but it's usually pretty hard to have any of your close family or friends travel with you, because if that was the case, no one would have any money left. So that was really special, and they got to all stay together and have a holiday out of it. So that's definitely one of my most favourite memories.
Fantastic. What a great memory to take with you as you continue to compete. We're sure we're going to see you competing in the future as well. You've talked a little bit about ISO and training where you've got so much to talk through. How has sport set you up for life in general?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all the things that I look back that I've learned throughout my career, and especially whilst I was at school and training and still trying to do well at school as well. Things like time management, organisation, independence, starting to travel the world as a 17, I sort of did my first overseas competition at World Juniors when I was 14 or 15. So, traveling without my parents and learning to look after myself and, come to meetings on time, get the bus on time, and just making sure those little things, they've held me in really good stead because now I can feel like I'm independent and can manage any task on my own. Obviously, the commitment and the determination, resilience, getting over hardships. There's so many life lessons that come from doing sport. And being as much as diving is an individual sport, we still travel as a team and have a national squad. So the friendships that you make through those teams and those squads are ones. I've got friends who were in my group when I was 13, who are still some of my best friends today. So that's really special.
That is very special, and that I guess takes you right through life, and hopefully you'll remain friends with them, even after you've finished competing, whatever that looks like. But right now, you're still competing, you're still in great form, you're certainly a bubbly character. You've got your own YouTube channel, which we will put into our show notes, because I think inspiring and emerging athletes, no matter what sport they're doing, should seriously watch you on camera, because I think you have a personality that shows the fun aspect of sport. And if there's anything an athlete needs, now again, I've never been an elite athlete, but I've worked around them long enough to know that fun is the most important aspect of staying in the game. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think there's been times throughout my career when I did focus too much on just the training and just getting a goal and just making a team, and it turned me stir crazy. So especially because I am naturally bubbly, making sure my training environment is fun and that I have a balanced lifestyle and it's not just all focused on diving is something that's been very important to me. And the memories I have of just being with friends and training with friends and traveling and competing, it's just they're the things that you hold to your heart. I think especially when you finish, it's not going to be remember that training session that I didn't smile at anyone and just focus on that and whatever. So I think it's very important to be having fun.
So in light of that, as you've mentioned a few times that you're very bubbly, and I certainly see that, and from the people that know you, they talk about you as being a very charismatic character and the kind of character you want to invite to your party and have around because you're just always fun. There's always something unpredictable about you. How has a bubbly, people-driven person coped in COVID and lockdown?
Yeah, it's been challenging. It is hard because obviously staying at home and trying to do the right thing, you're not having constant communication with anybody, but that's where the joys of FaceTime and Zoom have been really great because my friend group from school, we've been doing Zoom trivia every Sunday, so we all
That's
connect
so
over
good.
that. I FaceTime my grandma. I taught her how to use FaceTime on her phone, so she absolutely loves that. She still picks up the phone and holds it to her ear first. I'm like, Grandma, I can see you. So, that's been, just got to make the most of it. But, also trying to have some downtime and just have time for myself to make sure I'm looking after myself has been important as well.
And that would have been probably the negative, the positive part of the negativity around Tokyo being postponed. There would have been a positive aspect where you could have breathed a sigh of relief, taken a little break, step back from the pressure and know that it's coming again, but at least you could take a break from that for a certain period of time.
Yeah, exactly. I think also my year is usually go, go, go. I'm one state to another, one country to another for competition. So actually having time to slow down and be at home in my place in Melbourne has been something that I've tried to be really grateful for because that's not often the case when we're in a normal season.
We've got some great comments that are coming in on our YouTube channel, and we'll just mention this. This is actually a great question from Jonah. Out of all the pools you visited, which one's been the best? Hi,
Jonah. I think I know who that is too.
Jonah Mercier. Yep, okay.
He's one of our junior divers coming up. I definitely think my favourite pool I've competed in was Barcelona for World Championships in 2013. It was an outdoor pool and it was on top of a huge cliff in Barcelona that overlooked the entire city. So some of the photos from that pool are just phenomenal. My favourite pool in Australia is definitely MSAC. I love how bright and blue it is, but it is the coldest pool in Australia. So that's not so good, but I do love being home at MSAC.
Very good. Now, Charlie the diver has mentioned, hey, Belly, so exciting to watch you. Martin Barr, but Olivia has come in. It's Olivia, the diver. How many bathers do you have, she asks?
Oof, good question. If I counted them, I'd be scared, but probably, I don't know, over 100. But
wow.
Some of those are in bags downstairs in my garage that don't fit me anymore, but have some significance. I've also given a lot of old bathers away to younger divers so that they can wear them because there's no point some of them sitting in, baskets if they don't have any sort of sentimental meaning to me. But at the moment, I probably rotate between 20 stable pairs of bathers.
And out of those, you would have some Australian green and gold swimsuits, right? Because you've competed so often internationally. How many of those would you have?
Oh, so usually at a Commonwealth Games or an Olympics, you get between 4 to 6 pairs of bathers. Oh, okay. So some of those pairs I haven't even opened yet because I want to keep them, tagged and everything that one day I can put them in a frame or something like that. I've also given some to my old high school that have them framed at school. But I have probably 4 pairs that I do rotate between at training that are Commonwealth Games or Olympics.
And they're quite well put together and well designed uniforms. I've really enjoyed the uniforms over the last few Com Games Olympics. Mousie's World, I'm not sure if you know who this is, but it's Kira. My question is, when you fall and hurt yourself, how do you have the courage to get up and dive again?
Good question. I guess I'll take it back to my 10-metre days again. Sometimes learning new dives don't go to plan. And there was a couple of times, especially on one specific dive, which is a back 3.5 somersaults tuck. So you can imagine standing backwards off 10-metre, holding your legs and spinning 3.5 times that was my scariest dive. It was always scary. Sometimes I'd come out too early and I'd land flat on my back or over on my belly, and that takes the wind out of you. But I think, again, knowing or seeing what mistake that you made and trying to improve that, coming back to more basics and then trying again was always what got me through. But I think at the end of the day, you're only going to be doing dives that hopefully your body's ready to do and your coach knows you're ready to do. So there shouldn't be too many splats, but they do happen. You just got to have the courage. I think the quicker you do it again, the better, because if you wait too long, the fear kind of grows. So get back on the horse, as they say.
And that's, I guess, like anything, the sooner you can get back on and do it again, the more you can build your confidence to keep going. Got another question from Kieran. How good are the buffets when you're travelling around the world?
Ooh, well, we go to many, many hotels, and some of them are fabulous, some of them not so much. I think my favourite buffet I've ever had access to was when we had a competition in Dubai, and that place in itself was just like mind-blowing. It was such a cool and interesting country, but that buffet was huge, and you definitely had to have some self-discipline to not go nuts at the dessert bar. But then other times, I've been to some competitions where the food has not been so great. So it's kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Very good. Now, look, in regard to the sport that you're competing in, how hard is it, or do you find it difficult, rather, when you're dealing with such a, I'll say, subjective system? In athletics, it's first, second and third. There's photo finish. You can pick who came. It's objective. There's no argument. But in sport like this, diving, boxing, whatever it might be, there's such a subjective angle to it. How do you cope with that?
Good question. I think at the end of the day, I always just try and focus on what can I do to try and do the best dive I can do. And whether that gets me on top of the podium at the end of the day or I come last, I just try and put in my best effort. There's definitely been sometimes internationally where, in synchro you feel like you've been a bit jibbed, or, you did a better dive than someone else, but they got higher scores. But I think if you focus on that too much, you can do your head in and you can go crazy. So I just always try and be better, learn from my mistakes, and try and give myself the best opportunity to get great scores. So I just sort of focus it on that way.
Very good. One very last question before we wrap it up. What are your favourites out of forward, back, reverse, inward, all of that? It's Olivia again asking the question. Olivia Barr, what's your favourite?
Hi, Liv. I think my favourite is front or inward. So the sort of forward rotating directions are generally my better ones. I'm not as good at back and reverse. So forward, inward and twisting is definitely my favourite.
Very good. Now, where to for Anabelle Smith? What's next on the cards for you, the very short term, that is?
Next on the cards for me is just hopefully slowly getting back into more training again. And then when the borders, fingers crossed, open up, we'll be spending some more time training in Brisbane with Maddie. We have some training camps planned for the end of the year, and then a competition in December also, just if things go to plan. And then, hopefully a normal season this year kind of just gets cancelled, and next year we go into what would have been this year's competition. So hopefully lots of training and comps to come up later in the year.
Very good. We want to thank you for your time. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, we normally ask how to get in touch with you, but you're so prolific on social media. We're going to put your Instagram account and your YouTube channel, because I think that's actually a fantastic channel for, like I said before, emerging athletes to watch. You are very inspirational, not only on the diving board, but out of the pool as well. You're a great role model, young lady. I've certainly enjoyed researching you and getting to know you a little bit. So we're going to continue to champion you as an athlete, and we think you're amazing. And who knows, the next Olympics, we could see you again on the podium. No pressure, but we're excited for that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
No problem. And for those of you joining us next week, we've got Lyndon Hall, who's currently got the 1500 metre Australian record. So if you're a distance runner, or as Anabelle talks about, used to enjoy distance running, tune in. You'll see Lyndon Hall. She's a fantastic young lady and a very inspirational young woman as well. Thanks heaps for having us, Anabelle. We'll rip this into a podcast in the next hour and get that up as well.
Sounds good.